Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I thought I could start a series of book recommendations, and what I mean by a series is that I could do it every few months. Like this one will be titled Book Recommendations January edition, and then maybe I'll have a March edition. I'm not sure if I'll have one every month, but just as long as I keep reading as many books as I'm reading. So the first book I'd like to recommend you today is Sabriel by Garth Nix, or really the whole series. I actually have a book review of this a few videos back. It is the story about this girl, Sabriel, who is the Aberhorson's daughter, and who the Aberhorson is kind of a controller of death. He is not death itself, but he can kind of tame death. He has these, see on the cover she has bells on her shirt. They kind of like calm death and soothe death. It's really hard to explain, but if you're into like kind of complicated fantasy, or if you've ever read anything by Tamora Pierce, this is a very similar style of writing. So I do recommend this. I read it. I'm actually reading the third and final book in this trilogy right now. It's called Abhorsen, but this is the first one. So I recommend the entire series, but this is definitely worth picking. This book I recommend is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I finished this yesterday. And it took me a long time to read it because it's very complex and there's just a lot of things to think about. So this is a story about a mysterious night circus. It's a circus that's open only at night and closes at dawn. And it's black and white. There's magic in it. There's just things that can't really be explained, but people accept it anyway. And there's a lot of backstory, and what they have on each chapter title is a timeline. Like, for example, here is Opening Night 2, Sparks, London, October 13th and 14th, 1886. And it doesn't go in chronological order either. You could have 1886 and then go back to 1872, and then the next chapter will be 1902, and then so it's kind of interesting to piece the things together that way. So it's about this mysterious circus, and the two people on my copy of the cover, Celia Bowen and Marco, I forget Marco's last name, but Celia Bowen and Marco are pitted against each other in a competition, and they're not really sure how it's supposed to end. They've just been trained for it their entire lives. Like, you're there for the scene when Celia gets bound by this like mysterious challenge, and it's very, very interesting. It's very intriguing and mysterious and creepy. I absolutely loved it. And what I really, really like about my copy is that some people, if you open it up here, you see that the circus is being held in a hand. So some people just have that hand in the circus, but what I like about mine is that they're the silver silhouettes of Celia and Marco, and then you open it up and there's the circus. So there's like, the final recommendation is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I have read all of Gillian Flynn's books, and so far she's only published 3. One of her most famous and well-known works is Gone Girl, which recently was made into a film with Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike and Neil Patrick Harris. So this is a great, great book. Out of the 3 books that she's written, which is Gone Girl, Sharp Objects, and Dark Places, this is my favorite personally. It's about this journalist named Camille who gets sent back to her hometown to follow up on a murder mystery that's happening there. And so she stays with her family, her mother and her half-sister and her stepfather, and you can tell that there's some underlying family tension that you're not really being told about at the moment. You're like trying to figure it out, like why do they not get along too well, what has happened, and slowly you're given pieces of her past, and also just pieces of herself that you're realizing that it's a lot more dark and twisted than you originally thought. I read this back in 2013. I think I might pick up it up again very soon. And there's actually a quote from Stephen King on the back, which I thought was very impressive. To say this is a terrific debut novel is really too mild. I found myself dreading the last 30 pages or so, but was helpless to stop turning them. Then, after the lights were out, the story just stayed there in my head, coiled and hissing. An admirable, nasty piece of work, elevated by sharp writing and sharper insights. So I felt exactly the same way. Like, in every single one of Gillian Flynn's books, the story just, you're thinking about it. Even after, like, if I read 10 pages and put it down, I'm still thinking about it for whatever else I'm doing afterwards. So it's a very, very good book. Out of these 3 books, I would say, if you're going to read any of these 3 books next, pick this one up next. It is so good, and it is really, really short. Like, this copy is 252 pages, so it's not that bad.